Would you like to live your best life possible, regardless of your imperfections? Discover cutting-edge tools and inspiration to let go of your limitations and expand your life beyond what you've ever imagined. On Imperfect Brilliance, we help you tap into your unique gifts and talents, uncovering and letting your brilliance shine. Join certified facilitator and coach Betsy McLaughlin as she delves into different areas of your life to get unstuck and create the life that is truly possible for you. Betsy has changed her life by utilizing the tools and techniques she is sharing with you. What if your willingness to acknowledge your brilliance is the catalyst to creating a new reality? When you stop judging you, what else can you create in your life and in the world? Join Betsy live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern to create magical and joyous possibilities for an hour of laughs, questions, tips, and more. We are excited to contribute and play with you.
Welcome, everyone, to Imperfect Brilliance. I am your host, Betsy McLaughlin, and today I get to play with a playmate who lives across the ocean from me, Miss Melanie Meade. So welcome, Melanie.
Hey, Betsy. Lovely to be here.
Thank you so much. And I have had the pleasure of playing with Melanie for several years now, and we actually finally got to meet in person this past summer. That was so fun, actually, a couple different times, which was just so fun to say, oh my gosh, it's so nice to be able to hug you and actually talk to you in person and not just on the phone, Skype and meetings and stuff. So it was really fun to get to meet you in person. And so today we're going to talk about creating the life that you know is possible. And I love the write-up that Melanie did. So is it really about big houses and fast cars? Or is it this deep knowing you have had your entire life that somehow felt out of reach? And Melanie felt like she could never grab hold of what she knew was possible. Rather than go find herself and figure it out, she made a different choice. And she went on an adventure of living. Wow. And so she's going to talk today about where she started, the bumps on the road, and the never-ending adventure. Excuse me. So Melanie is a business and life mentor. She's an entrepreneur, a social media evangelist. I love that. And a habitual happy person. What? And Melanie exudes a natural warmth and honesty and a practicality. And she's renowned for her ability to quickly identify latent potential in her clients' businesses and lives and facilitate profound and lasting change. Her coaching style is practical, thought-provoking, and empowering, and she's sought after for her innovative insights and her innate ability to capture and illuminate others' brilliance. Based in Ireland, she facilitates workshops and classes all over the world. And you can find her website is MelanieMeade, MEADE.com. Now, welcome to the show, Melanie, again.
I'm still happy to be here, Betsy. Thank you for inviting me on.
She's so happy. She's a happy girl. And so the journey, the bumps in the roads of feeling like there was something else that you could be creating in your life and not knowing what that is or how to do it. How did you go from that place to now creating your never-ending adventure and creating a life beyond what you even knew was possible?
Yeah, I wouldn't have had the confidence before to have thought that anything that's in my life now would be here, and it's also not the end or the answer. And that's why I was saying it's not about like big houses and fast cars, like these physical things people will look at that they can judge you by, be it a positive or a negative judgment. And one of the biggest learning curves I've had is there is no how. You know what I mean? That's what I love about the business that I'm in, the coaching that I do. It's not for me to tell people the answer. It's for them to come to their awareness. And that's actually the adventure I went on, because nobody knew what I knew. Like, nobody could sense what I knew was possible. And I get that's true for a lot of people. And I get that's where a lot of us either slow ourselves down or get unhappy in life, or, you know, like low self-esteem or anything. And for me, like when I was a kid, I really was to that kind of happy, everything's awesome, the sun's shining, like very simple but extremely content. And the best way I've heard it put recently is then we're learned how to judge, and we also learn when people judge us, and, you know, maybe, you know, don't, you know, kind of step outside the box, or what are you doing that's weird, or don't be too happy. I mean, it's simple things. You don't have to be, you know, crazy and totally eccentric for, you know, people to, you know, want to, you know, maybe calm down or quieten down or whatever the story we've all been told. And over the years, I never quite knew how to fit in. So I went on this journey of, it was like two different worlds. It was the world of knowing something was possible, but not being able to have it, which is that sense of it being out of reach, that sense of being so far in the future that can you actually ever have it? Was it a dream, or was it just something you were wishing for? Or was it something you could actually create? And I worked in, like really fast forwarding to when I really made the change, I worked in local government law and here in Ireland for like 16 years. And that sense of being really contained, so like, you know, you're living in a box and you're like getting too big for the box, and you're kind of busting up against the corners and all these different kind of feelings. And I really wasn't happy. And I was confused because, you know what I mean? Like, this was how people lived their lives. They, you know, had a job, they did this, they did that. And I didn't exactly get all of it right, but I was doing my best, and I couldn't figure out, you know, what was off. So anyway, I came across the tools of access consciousness, and this is where I really got to play with something different, because one of the questions that they will always ask you is, what do you know? Now, how many people in your life actually ask you that question? And how
That's
often,
so true.
yeah, it is. And how often can you actually say, I know this, 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 and this? A lot of the time we don't have words for it. A lot of the time we just know we want to be, you know, what makes us happy or what brings us joy. And it's those elements. When you invite them more into your life and when you judge yourself less is when the real change happens. And exactly what you said, Betsy, you couldn't even predict what would show up. It shows up far greater when you're willing to go on the adventure.
So can you talk a little bit about actually being willing to go on that adventure? And were you able to do that right away, or did it take you a while to make that jump? Or tell us a little bit about that.
So yeah, when I, like, first of all, when I came up, like for me, it really did start with the tools of access consciousness, and I actually now work with a company in the business. So access consciousness is a huge feature in my own personal story. So I found the tools, and I remember one of the first classes you can attend is Access Bars, and I came across that through a lady actually that was doing Reiki. I started going to this woman because I found myself like just stressed out, bothered. I knew there had to be an easier way, and I started seeing this woman, and I was going to her irregularly, you know, over a year or two. And one day I went to her and she just did something different. That's all I knew when I was in the room. But the best way I can describe it, Betsy, was when she did that, it reminded me of what I knew what was possible for me when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Before I learned to judge, when all the external goings on outside me didn't matter. It reacquainted me with that. And I was like, I need to know more about what this is. So I spoke to her and she told me about it, and I got my bars run more. And when I got my bars run, Betsy, I occasionally wear glasses. I assume people that don't wear glasses wear sunglasses or drive a car with a windscreen. And the best way I describe getting your bars run, it's like cleaning your glasses, or, you know, when you kind of clean the windscreen, you suddenly see clearer and everything just looks a lot brighter and better. You know what I mean? And that's literally how I started. Like, I just started feeling a little more optimistic, a little bit brighter and better, a lot less wrong. And I started making choices from there then. And with that question, what did I know? And so what I love doing, Betsy, and I've kind of done it a lot my whole life, but I realized I was very good at it, is, do you know when something pops? whether it's logical or not, I would choose it. So I call it yes. I call it yes, no. If I get a yes, it doesn't mean it's perfect or the answer, but I do pursue whatever that thing that pops, whether it has a positive or a negative, let's say, outcome. I learn a lot by kind of just navigating. And Betsy, if I was to have predicted the choices I would make next, I wouldn't have had the life that I have now. So kind of playing with that adventure again of anything that popped to run with it. So I did a couple of classes. I loved the tools. They were so for me. And I started getting curious. And I'm not very, I wasn't huge. I don't even think I was really on Facebook even at the time. I wasn't very technical or anything. And I always people were saying really brilliant stuff. And I started did you hear what, Betsy said was so amazing? Or did you hear this? Or all this kind of different stuff. And I remember saying, I wonder what it would take. What is it that would get words on a picture, a quote graphic or, whatever, because people loved that stuff and you'd start seeing it around. And I thought it was going to be super hard. And I have a son, he's now 18, but at the time he could have been maybe 13 or something. And he showed me an app on my phone. And we started playing with it. And Access Conscious facilitators were coming to Ireland. And I would work with them at this stage. I'd help out the host or something. I got curious. Do you know what I mean? And I wouldn't be your classic person that would, host classes, or I wasn't an out there connector. So straight away, I was defying all the things I thought was wrong about myself. I couldn't do business because I couldn't connect or whatever. So when I followed that curiosity and, I wasn't good at technology, I wasn't good at connecting. And I found myself making quote squares on my phone, and I found myself helping out the connectors. I wasn't necessarily connecting, but I was starting to do these things that I really didn't see as a business. But Betsy, this literally just evolved. I mean, I could go way more into I didn't have a laptop when I started working online with businesses, even more. I mean, I was doing stuff that was so off the straight line, that path, everything you need to have in place for stuff to succeed. I was doing it all backwards. And it turned out doing things backwards or sideways or upside down wasn't wrong. What I stopped doing was trying to get it right in order to create. I just started creating. So every moment was and still is an eye-opener when you look at life that way. But basically, Betsy, I was in my day job still, and I started getting work. People actually wanted to hire me, and I transitioned out. So it took maybe a year and a half to fully, kind of come out of my day job and into kind of basically working for myself. And I'm in my third year of doing that now, and it's still an adventure.
Wow. For anybody listening, before I ask any other questions, who might not know, you talked about the bars. Could you tell people a little bit more about what that is and how they can find out more info?
Yeah, sure. The bars is it's like a light touch therapy on your head. What I say to people is if they've ever had reflexology on their feet, the reflexologist will touch your feet and it kind of corresponds with organs. The bars is on your head. It's held lightly. And it actually kind of clears all that brain fog. Like I said, it's like when you wipe your glasses, it just clears your head. It totally, for me anyway, and I'll speak for myself, de-stressed. And it actually gave me that confidence for me to actually go create. But everyone, if you go to a session, you won't, and you speak to the facilitator that's going to, run your bars. If you say, I want this, this, and this, that's not really how it works. It allows you, again, to access what you know is possible. And that's what I found. It cleared my head and it allowed me to go on that adventure. But if anyone does want to check it out or get more information, you go to accessconsciousness.com/bars. And there's, it's full of information. It's full of stories of change. It's full of people talking about their own personal experiences. And you'll find, generally speaking, they're all different, but ultimately a lot of people have a lot more happiness and ease in their life. And some people have changed, not being able to sleep, or I personally knew a woman that couldn't leave her house, and now she's off traveling, going to Australia to visit her granddaughter. And it just does changes your life in ways you just cannot imagine. And I think for me personally, again, I'll speak for myself, it just opens you up to more of you, things you never knew that you could do. And this is just a great stepping stone. And it's great when you get stressed or when you're just a bit tired. I just get my bars run, and it's like pressing a reboot. It's like restarting your laptop when your laptop slows down. You know what I mean? It's just, it can create as little or as much as you desire. That's the way that I see it anyway, Betsy.
Oh, for sure. And I, too, am a huge proponent of getting my bars run is how we say it. When you have this done, like when you have somebody that will put their hands on your head. And I know when I haven't had my bars run for a while, I start to get some headaches and I start to get a little cranky. And then I have my bars run and it just opens. I'm like, oh, here I am again, and the headache goes away. Yeah. My crankiness goes away. And I haven't heard it described like you did today, with the glasses. And it's like, cleaning the fog off. Yes.
I just remember, Betsy, like when I was first getting my first couple of sessions, I used to leave, like the lady would run my bars, and I just get into the car, and you just kind of look around and that's what it was like. It was just like, it was like having a good massage, or on a cold day having a hot cup of tea. It just did something for you that it gave me just a lot of peace. And when you have that clear, mind, when there's nothing pulling and tugging and demanding of you, you start making choices that really are for yourself. They're the choices you'd make, not the ones that Betsy wants me to make or my son wants me to make or whoever. It's like, actually, what's true for me? What do I know? And that's what I felt that was the gift of the bars for me.
Wow. That's beautiful. So oh, gosh, it's already time for the first break. How did that happen?
Time to perfection.
We'll be back in a couple minutes. Thanks for listening.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at omtimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Dad, this is fun. I didn't think I liked kayaking.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back?
Sure. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a kayak, Dad.
I'm going to return the kayak.
Can we walk home?
How about a taxi?
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to Imperfect Brilliance. I am here today with Melanie Meade, and we're just having an amazing conversation. She's sharing with us how she started changing things that weren't working so great in her life. And right before the break, you were telling us that it was about a 1.5 year transition, and you're now doing things that you didn't even know how to do before.
Mm.
And I would like, right? And your life is completely different than it was. You said 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
So what did you do? Like, how did you actually get yourself from the place of knowing that there was something that just kind of wasn't right, really working in your life, to actually making the steps that, to taking the leap? So you talked about that the bars were a huge contribution, and then what else?
The biggest thing, Betsy, and this has come up like at various different stages over the last few years, because there's times you can get comfortable with the choice you've made when you've been doing it for a while. It just seems normal, let's say. And the biggest thing that came up, and it was when I went to leave the day job I was in at the time and transition into a new business. Would this work out? Like, what if this all went terribly wrong? What if, I'd have to go back to the life that didn't make me happy? And the thing that came up for me was I actually had to trust that I could create, because a lot of what we choose ourselves, like, we actually get to choose how we get to be with everything. If we want to be happy or annoyed or sad. And I think, to me, that was the biggest gift. If I ever got annoyed or stressed or concerned, I actually had to acknowledge that was the way I felt about it. Like, the external circumstances were not controlling my mood. It was me. And what I found was the biggest challenge was, did I trust myself enough? Did I trust my creative capacities enough to be able to keep going no matter what? And what somebody said to me one day was Denise Hughes, who was actually coming to Ireland to do a class, and she said, look, would you ever see yourself and your son homeless? And I said, no. She goes, so you would do whatever it took to create the life you know is possible. And Betsy, like, sometimes things don't work out. You might not be everyone's cup of tea, but you pick yourself up and you keep going. And that's what she said, is that I had it in me to at least take a shot in it and go for it, because you're never guaranteed like immediate success. I'm going to hop from here to here because I know it's going to be successful. I think what I dreaded the most was maybe if it didn't work out, that I'd go back to my day job, and I knew that wasn't making me happy. So it was trust between getting the bars run for me, that kind of bringing more of me into my life, feeling a bit better about myself. And then the second thing I would definitely say was that level of trust that I had in myself. Like, I know, Betsy, a lot of us go about our day thinking maybe that we're not good at something, or that we're wrong, or, you know what I mean, that maybe we aren't capable. But we're so good at looking at what we can't do, because what we can do is actually comes so easy to us. We actually don't get that other people don't have that skill, and it could be a skill as being very pleasant with people. I mean, I'm not saying high knowledge or degrees or anything. There's some skills that we have that are so natural that we don't even realize that's the thing, that's the sweet spot for us. That's actually that place that we're creating from. And we were so quick to look at what we can't do. We nearly apologize to people. Sorry, I'm really not good at this, forgetting that there's this whole, it's only a tiny part of the way that we live. And then there's so much more there for us to play in. And I've been learning that a lot, that I still am. And that's why I call it an adventure, Betsy.
Well, and it's so beautifully put. What came to mind as you were talking is, I know a lot of people where English is not their first language. And a lot of times what they'll say to me when they first start talking to me is, I'm sorry, my English isn't very good. And I'm listening to them going, I understand every single thing you're saying. And so that's that piece where we look at what we think we're no good at. And I wonder if we stopped doing that, what would that do for our lives?
Exactly. And like what I was saying in the first part of the show, I always thought I could never do business because I wasn't a connector. I'm terrible. Like, there's people, you'd watch them and they'd go into a room and they'd talk to all the strangers, or maybe even in business, give a business card or come away with a phone number and meet them for coffee. And I was just like, I can't do it. I'm terrible. And I remember my first Joy of Business class. It was one of those classes, Betsy. I did not have a business. I got a yes, that kind of curiosity thing I was talking about. And I went. And very unlike myself, I was actually asking, was with Simone Melissus, I was actually asking questions, which is unheard of. I don't like audiences, don't like to, limelight. And that was the biggest thing. I could say to her, I cannot create a business because I'm not a connector. And I put such a huge value on it. But Betsy, you don't need to be good at everything. Once you start playing in, and it doesn't have to be business, it could be any area of your life, whatever brings you joy. Once you start playing there, you meet people that complement the other parts that you might not be so strong at. And that's when you get to play together and things get bigger and greater and a hell of a lot more fun because we're all playing to our strengths. And I found in my previous day jobs that was not encouraged. That's why so many employees were unhappy. They were doing what they were told rather than being asked what they know and playing from that place of playing to your strengths. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Oh, I really do. I used to be in the corporate world as well. And that's so well put. I don't know that I've ever looked at it like that. And it is, you're so told you have this job to do this job. And a lot of times it's not encouraged to be asking questions to see what else you could actually create here. And I remember I would get my work done pretty quickly, and then I'd be looking for more work. Like, what else can I do? What else could I do? And people were getting mad at me and telling me to stop it because I was making them look bad. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make you look bad. I'm just would like to do more. And I didn't want to sit around being bored at work, and I didn't think that I should be paid to surf the internet, And so it's really funny, very different way of thinking and being, and everybody was very segregated, and there wasn't a lot of encouragement. No, I'm not saying every corporate job is like this. This is just where I was, and it was not encouraged to, collaborate and work together. And so it's really interesting to look at it from that. And now you're in a place where people are actually asking, what would you enjoy doing? And ideas are encouraged. And when you have that place where you actually are allowed and encouraged to be you and to bring your uniqueness to you. From what I can hear in your story is all of a sudden, and I'm doing air quotes that you can't see, that all of these gifts and capacities started to appear that you didn't even know you had. And I wonder how many other untapped gifts and capacities you and myself and everybody else listening actually have.
You're exactly correct. And again, that's why I call it an adventure, because I've changed so much of my life. I no longer feel that it's out of reach. I feel that it's all possible now. Like I don't have the flashy house and the fast car, but what I do have is a happiness and a contentment. And then the other thing, Betsy, too, it's to be able to ask a question. You know what I mean? So I do still have moments where either I would like more. I'd like more happiness. I'd like more money. I'd like to see what else I'm capable of. And I have to look at particular things because there are moments where you get comfortable or you might still see yourself in a particular way. And you start to notice, I'm actually starting to see that this particular point of view that I'm such and such is holding me back. Or like one would be for people definitely like me is that we're too weird. Do you know what I mean? We're too different because I don't create in a straight line. Sometimes I do it backwards, or I'll take I'm great at listening to people, and it could be a couple of years later that somebody would say something and I'd be able to connect the dots straight away and bring it back to a conversation that happened ages ago. and know exactly what was said and where to find stuff. Do you know what I mean? So when people sit face to face and you're expecting things to be a particular way, with me you'd be disappointed because that's not how it occurs. But when people encourage you, do you know what I mean? Like a lot of us have these skills that it's not that they're weird as in, you know, you can turn water into wine. You'd make a lot of money if you could do that. But you know what I mean? Like when people have an expectation of it needs to be delivered now or it has to be done this way, and you don't come up with the goods, you're made wrong. You know what I mean? And there still would be sometimes an element of that for me, just deep down inside, where once I recognize that's what I'm doing, that I can't do it because it's wrong or that person won't understand, I actually take another look at life. Do you know what I mean? I have to take another look at it, because that, when I create from that point of view, that's not creating the best way that I know how. And you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, Betsy, but there are people out there asking to play with you in whatever it is that you love to play in. Do you know what I mean? When you make people's lives easy or joyful, when you have an enthusiasm, when you're committed to something, you know what I mean? And you're not kind of flaky about, you know, when you show up to work and you kind of do a half job and you're kind of getting through the day, that's cool. But there's people out there that truly appreciate the gifts that you have. Bring it all to the table, the best way you know how today. Because when you do that, you'll get so much more of you continuously. Like I'm pretty sure I would like to think so anyway, Betsy, that I'm going to surprise myself this time next year and look back at me today and notice all the other things that I've learned about myself and changed and done things I never thought I would be doing. Like being on a radio show, for example, I would not have been your classic person to talk, and it turns out you can't stop me talking most of the time. Just one small little change I made in my life, you know.
So you've gone from somebody who doesn't like to talk, didn't think they had anything to do with business, didn't do social media, to now, you know, you've created an entirely different life for yourself.
Yeah, I was lying all along, you know. And again, Betsy, bringing it back to, like, you can't plan this. You know, if you told me 5 years ago what I'd be doing now, it wouldn't have been this. You know what I mean? I did want to help people. I did know that there was something there for me, that I could assist in the change of something. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was about as big as it was. That about matches what I thought was possible. But I didn't have a full picture or a plan. And if I was to map out my next 5 years or whatever, it wouldn't have. Like, a lot of people do that, Betsy. It's marriage, kids, and a house, and I have a kid. Do you know what I mean? But, like, I did everything back. I'm still waiting on a husband. That's not working out at all, Betsy. There's no rings. I mean, by this reality standard, I've done it all sideways. It's just, you know, and people will, like, some people won't be happy until you've ticked those boxes. Right. But I couldn't be happier. And that's what people don't get. And if you're to buy what everybody else thinks, you're in trouble, because it's maybe not the way that you view life at all. And amazing things show up. I mean, I often wondered, was there a kindness in the world? And it's in the last few years I'm really starting to see it. One, because I'm willing to be more kind to me, Betsy. But there are people out there that just smile, or they say hi, and you know they might be at the other end of a phone or whatever. And that, to me, is something I never knew could even be in my world years ago. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but the things that you might have got upset about or wondered about or whatever, like, it's all there. It's there for the taking. Like, if you think anything you're thinking is crazy, that's probably the thing that really does exist. Like, truly.
Wow. There are so many pearls in what you're sharing with us today, Melanie. Thank you so much. And I wonder what other adventures await you. And
I know.
What questions do you ask to create an even greater life?
Yeah. Well, I always ask, what do I know? Because I always thought I didn't know. That would be my favorite one. And then the other thing too is like, I would have personally found when I spoke to people, maybe they didn't understand what I was saying, or do you ever find that people pick you up incorrectly? And I always had to work on, do I say what I'm going to say, or if I say it and they don't understand, I actually have to be willing to look extremely stupid, because I thought I was stupid, and it just turned out that maybe I was saying things that people didn't fully get. And I had 2 instances recently, Betsy, and it just made me laugh so hard. There's a couple of things I was talking about for a few years, and everyone's like, yeah, you know, whatever. And then the next thing, I was talking to somebody, and I said, hey, look at this, and they looked at it, and then they started talking about it, and everyone's like, that's so amazing and brilliant. And I went, oh, you know, no. I remember I was been talking about it for years, and everyone ignored me, and I went, hang on a second here. So, and then that's where this is where I use question, Betsy. One, it's not wrong, okay? What's being created is creating more. It is something greater. They just couldn't hear it from me. Am I wrong? No. But what I ask next is what else is possible. Because I could say, oh, I'm not speaking up, or I'm not, and I could look at all the reasons why I never, let's say, got it my way. But like, why limit myself to that tiny little box? What else is possible? Because I'm a firm believer, Betsy, nobody knows exactly what you know. And in business, you know what's famous is people, they stole my idea or whatever. Even if somebody steals your idea, they cannot do it the way that you do it. You know, and like the situations I'm talking about were not done from competition. It just happened to be something that popped up. But I had to take a good hard look at myself and say, what else is possible here? Because clearly, you know, I had to acknowledge skills that I had that maybe people weren't ready for. And that's actually okay too. Now, this is a whole new area where I get to play. This is a new adventure for me, Betsy, because it's something I always knew, but it's very fresh in my world right now. So what I do is I'll dive right in. I will ask what else is possible, and I will look at it and I'll see, is there something in there that I can create with or not, you know?
Wow. Great place to take our second break. Thanks, Melanie. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Cool.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living, a chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me, and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Melanie Meade is my guest today. And Melanie, if somebody would like to have more conversations with you or find out what you're creating in the world, where you're going to be, or invite you to their area, where could they find you?
They can find me on melaniemeade.com. I'm also on the Access Consciousness website, so accessconsciousness.com/Melanie Meade, and you'll see a lot of the classes that my upcoming ones, that will be, they'll be there and easy to find too. And you can also, I'm happy for people to direct message me on Instagram at Melanie P. Meade, if they just want to shoot me a message and see what's possible.
Fabulous. And if anybody's looking for me, you can find me at my website, creatingyumminess.com. My email is accessbetsy@gmail.com. And Melanie and I are both also on Facebook, so we're pretty easy to find. If you have any problems, you can message me, and I'll be happy to put you in touch. So we are talking about creating a life of adventure and changing your life from one that wasn't bad. It wasn't like it was a horrible life, but you knew that there was something different. And you actually started, and I'm sorry, I totally just had this, you know, when you go to say something and then your brain goes, well, that's what just happened.
My life.
Great. What was I going to say? So, and how many times have we actually even done that in our lives, where we start to go forward and then our bodies or our minds go, and then we don't do anything. And it's not a wrongness, even if we do that. You know, it's like, okay, now what could I do? What could I choose? Where could I go? Who could I call? What, you know, and so and one of the things we talk about a lot with the wonderful tools of access that we're so fortunate to play with and share and facilitate with is being in the question and actually getting yourself out of thinking that you have to know the answer before you even do anything, which is where I used to live. I thought I had to have all my ducks in a row and everything had to be lined up and neat and orderly and perfect, or I couldn't do anything. So did you ever function like that?
I was laughing in my head when you were saying that, because the problem I had was no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get my ducks in a row.
Well,
my ducks were a hot mess. A hot mess, Betsy. So I was wrong. I just couldn't get them in a row. They were popping up everywhere, and it was just a disaster. And that's what I would say is that, I couldn't follow the order of life. Yeah. You know what I mean? I just couldn't. Yeah. And we try so hard. You know what I mean? And I can do it. I swear, everyone. I've got it together. And it's just, you're looking at this going, what's wrong with me that I can't, do this like everyone else? But the thing is you're unique. But Betsy, when you were talking, and you're laughing now, you have to have a sense of humor with these things. If you, like you were saying, your brain goes, you sometimes just have to laugh and go, excuse me, and then, keep going rather than stopping. And I think sometimes if you don't laugh at life, do you know what I mean? What's the point?
No, that's so true. And I just flashed back. There was one Easter where my mother decided it would be fun to get ducks, and we had 3 kids, so she got one for each of us, little baby ducks, and we named them Tic Tac and Toe. And so as you were talking about the ducks being a hot mess, and you could never get them to line up, and they're always going everywhere, which that was brilliant. And I flashed back to that time when we actually had these little baby ducks, and they went everywhere. And it really was, so it's a great analogy of you can spend your time trying to get the ducks to do what you want them to do, or, and they're going to do what they want to do, or you can actually live your life. And that's why I was laughing so much. And just you have such a, to me, you're so funny. It was a hot mess. And it's like, yeah, actually it was. And you're not making yourself wrong at all. It's just, and actually being able to laugh about it all is such a gift for you.
It is, because it takes that seriousness out of life, because when you're laughing at something, you can't really be judging yourself. You know what I mean? When you're being deadly serious, you're looking at all the things that you're doing wrong, or somebody else is doing wrong, or why it's not working out. But something, again, back to that tool I was saying before the break, I just ask what else is possible, because so many times I'll do this, and then Betsy will do that, and then this is what will happen next. And that's not the case, because I can't control everything that's around me. I can't control my family or the weather, but I actually do get to take charge of how I get to be with everything. And sometimes I get annoyed, or sometimes I might get upset. And then I look at it and go, if that's what I'm choosing, I can't make it anybody else's fault. Do you know what I mean? And there's a stage where you just got to laugh at stuff. And like I laugh recently, just sometimes you find you have great decorum. You're walking around, you're meeting people, or you go to an appointment and you're like, hello, how are you? And you're talking. But recently I found I go in and I'm like, hi, how's things? And I'm like just chatting about stuff. And I forget that I'm in it. Like, these are appointments that they're not my business now. But so I avail of a service of someone or whatever. And I just go in, rather than trying to be reserved or whatever, I just go in happy. You know what I mean? I smile and I laugh. And, they're looking at me going, I've never met anyone like her before. But it's like, when I grew up, Betsy, I just earlier there, it just reminded me, I don't know, like, I probably look happier on the inside than I do on the outside. Because apparently when I was young, people would say it might never happen. As in, like, why'd you look so sad? And I laugh at that, because whatever I look like, because I can't see my face, Betsy, but like inside, I can be very joyful. I have an unusual sense of humor that maybe not everyone gets all the time. So sometimes I just have to laugh to myself. But it's like just being that happy, or I don't know, just saying stuff to people that maybe you might deem as, I wouldn't say inappropriate, but like in an unprofessional setting, let's say, it's not business-like or whatever. It kind of like brings a little giggle, or they kind of go, oh, I never thought of it that way. And then they start laughing. And then it's a whole other conversation opens up. You know what I mean? Like you end up, getting outside the box is the way that I would say. That's what I like doing anyway.
It's so true. And actually celebrate the uniqueness of you. And, that you can totally change the energy of what's going on by a smile, by a laugh, by, you actually just walking into a room and being you. And, what gift is that actually for the world, when you're truly, just think if everybody was actually willing to be themselves and to know what they know, like that they actually do know, and they don't have to look for somebody else to tell them. And to be able to choose happiness and choose joy and take that path and be I'm a hot mess, and I'm brilliant, and yes, I have all these capacities I didn't even know I had, and yes, I've made mistakes, and and actually fully embracing everything that you are in this world. If think about how empowered if everybody walked around knowing that they actually are brilliant, that they are a gift, that they are way more than they have ever given themselves credit for. Wow.
And that's why I love the name of your radio show, Imperfect Brilliance, because as I said, it's not about flashy cars and big houses or looking like you got it right. It's within that supposed imperfection is actually where the gold is, because you're not trying to do it by status quo. You're showing up as you. And look, we all trip and fall. None of us, will get everything 100% all the time. So be it. Move on. You know what I mean? We have that brilliance within us to keep going. Like, we can't actually lose ourselves. You know what I mean? And that's what I was saying to you before the show. It's like, I didn't go find myself. Just sometimes you have to separate and think about it and spend time on your own or whatever and have a good serious think on life. I went, no, I'm jumping right in. I'm going to see actually what shows up when I am an active participant in living. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When I actually take a shot at myself and bring whatever is inside out and just play with it and see. You know what I mean? And how does it get any better than that?
Bring what's inside out.
Mm.
Wow, that's really cool. So I wonder, what you, Melanie, and everybody listening, what do you have inside that you could bring out into the world?
Mm.
So what questions could people ask to actually start discovering what that is for them?
My favorite one really is, again, I've said it a couple of times, is what do I know?
Mm-hmm.
What, and trust it. Like, trust is it's a huge part of creating. If you're going to make your choices based on fear or anything like that, you're in trouble. You know what I mean? Because you're not fully, choosing stuff. Because you're worried about something, rather than, like, as we were saying, like, have those ducks all a hot mess and going everywhere, and actually just going, hey, okay, so this isn't going entirely to plan right now. What next? What do I know? What do I know? What else is possible? And trust you. For me, it's curiosity. Curiosity is key. And ultimately, whatever the outcome is, be it like me, you end up working in social media or whatever it is, for me, I find the result is something, it's more of a joy and an enthusiasm, and you become a magnet. Do you know what I mean? People can't help but get intrigued when you're willing to show up as you, because, Betsy, unfortunately, so many people aren't. You know what I mean? So many people aren't willing to embrace that imperfect brilliance that they actually have.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And, how hard do you have to work if you're unwilling to embrace all the imperfections, and that you're trying so hard to be this, whatever you've decided is the perfection of you. Yeah.
And how many times, Betsy, do you look at other people and admire them for the choices that they're making? Like, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but that quote, from Apple with Steve Jobs, here's to the crazy ones. Is it the square pegs in the round hole? And people are all like, yeah. And I'm like going, hang on a second. That's available to you too. That's everybody. You could be the next person that comes up with the most innovative idea, or, you know what I mean? Like, we look and admire these people like they're something else. And it's like, no, they're people too. They're creators. And trust me, a lot of them failed miserably, or people maybe did not like what they were doing, but they brought something to the world that was never seen before. And some of the stuff we just can't live without, like even turning on a light switch now. You know what I mean? So it's there for us all, Betsy.
I love that so much. It is there for all of us. And there's so many, what I was picturing as you were just talking is, what do you call those things? What's the shell that holds the pearl? That's the oyster, right? Yeah, right. So you've got the oyster, and it doesn't really, for most people, it doesn't really look like much. And then you open it up, and you never know what's inside. It could be a little pearl. It could be a big pearl. It could be a gray pearl. It could be white. It could be, and it could be more than one pearl. And so how many pearls do you actually have inside of you? That if you would be willing to actually let them out in the world, and be willing, like we've talked about during the show today, to be imperfect, to fall, to be a hot mess, all of these things, to laugh, to embrace your brilliance, how many more pearls are actually tucked inside of you? I had the fortune of going to an island, a very small island in the Bahamas called Staniel Key. And a friend of mine has been friends with this free diver for many, many years. He's amazing how far down he can dive. He has no, he uses a snorkel, but no scuba gear or anything. And he's gone. He's like down there. And you're like, where did he go? And then he'll come up like 5 minutes later and far, far away from where he dove down. And he comes up with huge fishes and conch and lobster. I mean, it's just brilliant to watch this man. And he found a pink pearl in an oyster, and it was like, holy moly, look at this. And he was just pulling it off to do something else, and here was this beautiful pink pearl, and it was quite large. And it's like, do you realize how rare this is? And it was just so amazing. And we all knew it, let's give this to him, because he was such an amazing man. And so how many pearls are there that you guys would like to tap into now?
Yeah. Totally.
I am so grateful for this conversation today and for you taking the time out of your day to come play with us and inspire our listeners. We've got a couple of minutes left, and how would you like to leave our show today?
Well, Betsy, it's been my pleasure to be on. I mean, truly, and things like this I never would have thought I'd have been choosing before, and it really is just take a shot in yourself, trust yourself, and just go on the adventure. Even if it doesn't turn out how you think it's going to, just keep going. I'm not done yet, so I'm just going to keep going too.
I love that. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah. Thank you, Melanie Meade, for playing with me today. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Melanie.